Okay. We like to eat. One of the most popular activities around our church is the new moon meals. We all enjoy lunch with our coffee after church too. It seems that coffee demands something with it. Even when we go out to get coffee, it's even nice to have a donut or a muffin or cookie with that coffee. And as we think about food for a bit, I'm wondering, what are some of your favorite foods? What are your favorite beverages, breads, meals? Most importantly, what are your favorite desserts? I like a great cup of coffee. I like the warm cinnamon bread. For a meal, I really enjoy the great lasagna or tacos my wife Tanya makes. And for dessert, above all others, I enjoy Tanya's German chocolate cake. I just can't get enough of that. Just thinking about it makes my sugar go high. Or her banana pudding too, for that matter. I'd like you to consider the perfect meal, and it is not what any of us have suggested. It's not even what I am suggesting here today. In 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 2, as newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, that you may grow thereby. Yahweh's word is the perfect beverage. We are told it holds the milk we need. Matthew 4, verse 4. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Elohim. Yahweh's word is the finest of bread. It's better than manna, which was referred to as angel's food, and was apparently as sweet as crystalline honey. In 1 Corinthians 3, verse 2, I have fed you with milk, and not with meat, for hereto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are you able. Yahweh's word is the meat we need to seek. It is the finest of meals. I grew up with meat, and I surely do enjoy the good beef meal or a good chicken meal. As a special meal, I enjoy a beef steak, and one meal I really enjoy is Tanya's chicken dish she calls curry chicken with rice on it. Now, think about how change begins in your mind. When we think differently, we feel differently, and when we act differently, to begin to think differently, we have to put different thoughts and different information in our minds. In Acts 14, verse 17, nevertheless, he left not himself without witness, in that he did good, and gave us rain from heaven, and fruitful seasons, fulfilling our hearts with food and gladness. In Acts 17, verse 11, these were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind, and searched the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. Romans 12, verse 2, be not conformed to this world, but be you transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yahweh. In Ephesians 4:23, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Notice how powerful Yahweh's word is. It gives us everything we need. Transformation takes place in our minds as we put Yahweh's word there. As we fill ourselves with the word, we change. Sometimes the change is ever so slow. But sometimes we make monumental changes in a short time. Sometimes simply changing the way we look at something can make all the difference. Your videos about the word and what they mean, The last two are very good. If you get a chance on Facebook, look out Pastor Lee. He's got some good videos out there. We're like new people when we change. We need to feed richly on the Word, to drink it, to eat it, enjoy it. So, okay, let's continue to think about the process of having a meal. Since we've seen that the Word of Yahweh constitutes a perfect meal, if someone is going to prepare a meal, if you are going to prepare a meal, you have to know that someone wants that meal. There's no point in making a meal if no one will be there to eat it. If I'm home by myself, I don't make a meal. Most of the time, I can easily rummage through the fridge and grab some leftovers and heat them up and eat them while I wander around the kitchen or the house. Or I can make a sandwich and be quite content. Yeshua is preparing us a meal. Whenever we come to him, he will prepare something special for us. And he urges us to stay around and enjoy the meal. John 8, verse 31, Then said Yeshua to those Jews which believed on him, If you continue in my word, then are you my disciples indeed. This is what staying around for the meal is called. Abiding, waiting, anticipating, and preparing to enjoy it. This is what feeding richly and fully on the Word is all about. Yeshua calls on us to want the wonderful meal that he will provide. We show him that we want this special meal through three activities, three actions. First, we accept the idea that this is a good meal for us. For me, this is a good meal for me. We believe that this is the best meal available, or the best meal that we could possibly have at this time. 2 Timothy 3, verse 16, All Scripture is given by inspiration of Elohim and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. This says something special about the Word that we have seen is the perfect beverage, the perfect bread, the perfect meal, and the perfect dessert. When we accept this meal and when we think about the Word, we are accepting its authority. In life, we all have a way we used to judge everything. Often people use themselves as judge. Some use society as the judge. This is what polling is all about, especially in leadership policies are set because of certain polling results. From what I can see, to use society, or myself for that matter, is to use very imperfect authorities. The Word of Yahweh is a trustworthy authority. It is one that is timeless and is above me, and it is above society. So this is the standard I want to use, and I want to show Yeshua that I accept the meal he gives me from it. The matter of authority of the Bible is one source for Yahweh's written revelation. For some, it's not easy for some. Those we will minister to often won't accept the Bible as easily as we might have. Doing the work of the gospel, therefore, becomes a much longer and more difficult process involving establishing a long-term personal relationship. Let me say by that by having one authority in our lives is good, and it is a must. I believe that authority is Yahweh, as he reveals himself in the Word. People can be quite put off by the hypocrisy of contradictions they see in people of the Word, or believers. People are people, and let us not forget that. We are inconsistent. We are struggling. We are selfish people. Please don't tar Yahweh with that brush. He is consistent, and he cares for us. He cares for you as if you are the only person on the earth. You can understand, I think, how having yourself or society as an authority can have you whipped and ripped around from a day to day and can be very uncomfortable. Proverbs 14, verse 12, there is a way which seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Proverbs 16, 25, there is a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death again. The Word is an authority you can accept and align life to that won't let you down. Don't accept me as an authority. Don't accept a church as an authority. Accept the Word. And as you learn that Word and as it is accurately taught to you by myself or the church, always look beyond people to Yahweh and Yeshua. But please do look towards Yahweh. To have a meal, you have to accept then that the one preparing it is doing a good job for you and is giving you the best meal you can have at a particular time. Now, the second, when you have a good meal, it's important to take time to eat it and to enjoy the meal. Eat and run isn't good for us and with our physical food, and it isn't good for us with our spiritual food. It takes time, as we know, to chew and to allow what we eat to begin to digest. So lingering over a meal is wonderful to do. I know it's not always possible, but when we have a good meal, it's an excellent idea to take time. We know there are proven health benefits to that and a detriments to grab and run approach to eating. Luke 8, verse 8, and other fell on good ground and sprang up and bare fruit 100-fold. And when he had said these things, he cried, he that has ears to hear, let him hear. We are to be careful how we listen. Although I'm discussing today in the context of physical food, we know that Yahweh's Word, to assimilate it, requires time to listen to it, even as it takes time to assimilate physical food. Proverbs that tells us to watch how we think. Proverbs 12, verse 5, the thoughts of the righteous are right, but the counsel of the wicked are deceit. Proverbs 15, verse 26, the thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to Yahweh, but the words of the pure are pleasant words. Proverbs 16, verse 3, commit thy works unto Yahweh, and thy thoughts shall be established. And now Yeshua tells us to watch how we listen. In Luke 8, verse 18, take heed, therefore, how you hear. For whosoever has, to him shall be given. Whosoever has not, from him shall be taken, even that which he seems to have. Yahweh gets very personal. It's important, though. How do we digest food? We're not to eat too close to bedtime, not to exercise immediately after eating, and then there are rules to good digestion of a good meal. So there are rules to good spiritual digestion. James 1, verse 21. Wherefore, lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted, which means implanted word, which is able to save your souls. We need to humbly be glad for the wonderful message we have received. We are to openly and thankfully receive the meal Yeshua prepares for us. We can benefit from any meal. We can benefit from any biblical teacher. I emphasize that even if a teacher is boring, you cannot shut off and not learn. You can learn something from anyone. We know that it takes time to dine. There is a difference between eating and dining. When we might take 2 to 3 hours over a meal, it's wonderful, not something we can do each meal, but wonderful when we go out and can take the time. How can you assimilate the meal Yeshua prepares for you? Take time to read each day. Do you know that if you read the Word only 15 minutes a day, you can read the entire Bible through in a year? If you double that, drop just one 30-minute television program and you can read it twice a year. We all watch too much TV. So that's something to consider. Take time to read. In addition, you can get devotional guides in many places and use that for some directed reading and thinking. You can think over what you have read or a portion of what you have read. That's called meditation. And it can even lead you to memorize some verses that you can carry with you in your heart, in your mind throughout the day. The important thing to remember is that it takes some time to enjoy a good meal and to begin proper digestion. Allow Yeshua time to nourish you each day. Then after a meal, you need to use the food you have. It feeds your body and gives you energy, muscle. Other body components are able to enable you to do things. You don't eat simply to stay alive. You eat because you want to be able to do things. James 1:22, but be you doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. To simply hear is not enough. We are to be doers. Let the word have its effect in your life. You are not to just hear or just study, but you are to do as well. Yeshua declared this, Matthew 7, verse 24, therefore whosoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I liken him unto a wise man which builds his house upon a rock. If you do, then you are building your house on the rock of Yeshua Messiah. In your doing, the first doing is to apply what you read to yourself. Sometimes this is very painful, but is the place to begin. For instance, we've seen you watch how you think. Means me. Yes, you. How? Think about it and do it. You watch how you hear. You mean me? Yes, you. How? Think about it and do it. Be personal, as hard as it might be. This leads to growing. In addition, believers need to believe to help them to grow. Our belief is all about community. The entire gospel is about community. Built the family of Yeshua and Yahweh. We need small groups for study of the Bible. We need care and prayer and encouragement. Groups can be a wonderful help to you growing from the food of Yeshua gives you. In them you can understand better what you're supposed to do with what you have received. Having thought about food and Yahweh's word for our growth, where does it leave us today? How do you feel about the Bible, the word of Yahweh? Do you look forward to it as much as to a wonderful special meal? Or even as much as a nice Saturday evening meal with friends? What one action will you take to increase the amount of word you take in? Maybe you'll commit to reading the Bible in the morning, or to reading 15 minutes a day and reading the whole Bible in a year. What one action? Take a few moments and think about it. Matthew 4, verse 4, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh. Luke 4, verse 4, and Yeshua answered him, saying, it is written, that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of Yahweh. And where did he get that from? Where did Yeshua get that from? Deuteronomy 8, verse 3. And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh does man live. Yahweh and Yeshua are the finest chefs. He has only the finest meals to offer you day in and day out. It's hard to be creative. It's hard for those who cook in our homes to always have excellent meals, but they do. Yahweh and Yeshua are even better. Look forward to the meals he will offer you. Look forward to growing. I hope you're hungry. Yahweh bless.